get this party started. Dear Legacy, please excuse my balls. Welcome back to Please Excuse My Balls, brought to you by Dear Legacy Sports. I'm your boy, Kevin B. the Brand, and this is episode 6. The sports world is already insane as it is, but football is such a cruel sport. Like, the phrase any given Sunday really takes to heart when it comes to the football, in theory, right? In theory, any given Sunday, anybody could beat anybody. But when it comes to college football and NFL, there really is that thing, right? There's really that mystique, that aura that certain teams just carry and can make you believe that you can walk into this game and win this game by one bounce of the ball, by 1 inch, by one bad call of a referee. You just don't know when it comes to the game of football. Again, I know I always go on a tangent about football. My basketball people, please bear with me. It is playoffs in college football and in the NFL with a lot of, playoffs didn't start in the NFL yet, but there's a lot of ramifications in this last week of the season. So we might as well just call this the football edition part 2, right? We're going to jump right into the kickoff where I give you a couple headlines. With 1 week left to the January 9th deadline, WNBA players and owners are still in talks. Don't really know where everything sits with that, but hopefully it doesn't come down to what looks like is going to be happening, right? It does look as if, I know the players union has already voted and agreed to go on strike if necessary. Hopefully it doesn't come down to that. You guys know I've been telling you I'm trying to be in Vegas for banner unveil for Asia Wilson and the Las Vegas Aces, but it looks like that might be delayed. Hopefully not. Hopefully calmer heads prevail and everybody does what's best to grow the game. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. And some NBA news really quick. Wemby's knee MRI came back clean. Thank God for that. Because I like to see what the Spurs could do in the West and when it comes down to the playoffs later on, right? Because we want to see the best playing the best, and even though they play good without Wemby, Wemby is that cheat code for them, especially when you're talking about the OKC Thunder and the powerhouses that's in the West. What didn't turn out pretty good though is the Nuggets Joker is going to be out for about 4 weeks with that hyperextension that happened in the last game that they played. And then just to add insult to injury, Valanciunas goes down also with a injury that will sideline him also for 4 weeks. So you talk about two of the Nuggets big men are out. None more important than the Joker, right? The Joker is the engine that makes that whole thing go. Well, now it all falls onto Murray and crew. Murray and crew needs to hold the fort down for Joker for about 4 weeks. Um, I think right now we'll talk a little bit more about it, but let's just take a quick look where the Nuggets currently stand. I want to say they're like fourth in the West, but I want to confirm that. Where are you? Western Conference. The Nuggets are in fourth right now, 23-11, when both these injuries happened. So, you know, the goal is for them to stay right and stay competitive, keeping them inside that top 6, because you don't want to slide too far back and then try to dig your way out of it. Even though when Joker returns, it would be a lot easier to dig yourself out of certain situations, but sometimes the damage is too surmountable for anybody to overcome. So we'll see how it all plays out. And some quick NFL news before we get into like the real importance of stuff. Patriots Stephon Diggs and Christian Barmore in a little bit of legal trouble. Diggs is facing a felony charge of strangulation and a misdemeanor charge of assault. in an incident stemming back on December 2nd, where allegedly he's accused by a woman to have entered her unlocked bedroom after having a altercation about money owed to her. She claims that he smacked her across the face. Um, she was working as a private chef at the time. The arraignment is set for January 23rd. If you watch the playoff calendar, the Patriots are in the playoffs. January 23rd should put us around the AFC Championship game when he will be arraigned. Um, that doesn't mean I know the Patriots and the NFL has already looked into both matters. They're letting the legal system play itself out and before they hand out any of their type of judgment. So it looks like no, we should make this playoff run with Diggs and Barmore on the roster, and whatever comes about will probably be handed down after all the legal stuff is completed, and probably punishment will come in the new NFL season next year. Barmore, on the other hand, is facing a misdemeanor charge of assault and battery of a household family member in an alleged incident August 8th. His arraignment is set for February 3rd. Allegedly, it was an argument with a family member. He shoved him down, whatever the case may be. We'll let the courts play that stuff out, but I I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about it because these do have impacts potentially for this year. I doubt it, but it definitely will have lingering effects for next year. So with that being said, let's just jump right into it. It's time for the King of Sports, the segment for the NFL. In the NFL headlines, TJ Watt is going to play in the final game against Baltimore after having his lung punctured in a procedure. We've seen this happen quite a few times now. It's players are taking a shot and it punctures the lung. It's just it's unfortunate. It had him sidelined for a few weeks, and somebody that's a TJ Watt caliber is a Micah Parsons type caliber who can wreck a game for you. You have to account for him at every time. And now you're looking at the Steelers fighting for their playoff lives against Baltimore this week, and probably wouldn't have been in that situation if they had their game record on the other side on defense. And we all know the DK Matt. We'll talk a little bit more about it, but the DK Metcalf situation, getting suspended for those 2 games, might have the Steelers on the outside looking in. But we'll touch that a little bit later on. Sean McVay said his starters are playing this week, and no matter what's going on with seeding, his starters are playing. I love that you start playing your starters, but how long you play them might play them. If you're losing the game, just pull your starters. If I mean, there's not going to be a difference between 5 and 6. I feel as though you're getting healthy at the right time. Some key players are coming back to you. I don't think you need to risk it for the potential at a 5 or a 6 seed. Either way, I still have you as still one of the most complete teams in the NFL. You're still my pick for the NFC to represent in the NFL. So let's watch what we're doing here, because a lot of teams that have nothing to play for, they love playing spoiler alerts, and sometimes spoiler alerts are with injuries. The Vikings also said that they're starting JJ McCarthy in the final game. Josh Allen to keep his streak alive, starting for the Buffalo Bills this week. Again, you're not going to change your outcome. You're right now in 7th. You're maybe could go as high as 5, but you need help from other teams. You're at 7 right now. If it all stays the same, you're matching up against a division foe who you just went into their house and beat them in the New England Patriots. I don't know who has the edge on that one based off of what I've seen in that last game that Buffalo came to town. It's not just me being a Patriot fan. There was a lot of bailout that happened that allowed Josh and crew to score a couple of touchdowns. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think with Josh being with the Bills being in a position right now where there's no Patrick Mahomes, there's potentially no Lamar Jackson, even though I have them going in, but the potential of no Lamar Jackson as well. If not now, when, Buffalo? Your moment is now. Go ahead and capture what you been chasing after this whole time. There's not much in your way until you get into the Super Bowl. And like I said, any given Sunday, anybody could beat anybody. So let's watch how we're playing, Josh. I keep the streak alive, have one drive, don't care about seeding, and pull Josh and anybody else that's banged up for this last game. You're playing against the Jets. You could roll out your third string guys and you're still gonna win by probably 14, 20 points. Like, let's be honest. Don't let those guys get chippy and knock out somebody that's going to be vital for your playoff run. And now you're back in the same situation where it's like, man, this was our window. We still could not capitalize. And me personally, it's grounds for me. I like McDermott as a coach, but if you go and play your players in versus the Jets, who you could win without your starters, and somebody gets injured in that game, that dictates the outcome of your playoff run, based off of these past few years. Yes, you're a great coach, but maybe it will be time for a change. If I'm the owner, I'm looking elsewhere. Don't know where that elsewhere is, to be honest, because I think Sean McDermott is one of the top NFL coaches. He'll always have his team prepared, but you shouldn't put your team in positions where the end goal, you already missed out on a division. Fine, who cares? But the end goal is to win a Super Bowl. Let's put yourself in a position where you're going to win that Super Bowl. Titans fire what could be the coach of the year in Mike Vrabel. And now, since then, they've been in a free fall. And now they're in a new search for a head coach. I don't know why they fired Vrabel. I think Vrabel was successful in Tennessee. He had a lot of great wins. He took them to the playoffs. He did a lot with a little. He made players look better than what they actually were. My opinion, I think if I see the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens game, the loser of that game makes a change at head coach. And if they do make that change at head coach, whether it be John Harbaugh with Baltimore Ravens or it be Mike Tomlin in the Pittsburgh Steelers, I honestly believe the Titans need to hire one of these guys. It's not that these guys are only getting let go for change. It's not really because they've done anything wrong. They've kept their teams in playoff. They have their teams ready to go every single year. You pretty much kind of counting them into the playoffs. I think you go and put a Harbaugh or a Tomlin in that organization with Tennessee with a young Cam Ward. It looks like you're gonna be in a top 3, top 5 pick again this season. If Cam Ward is your guy, you go and get him some help. If he's not your guy, there's a pretty good draft class coming out, especially at the quarterback position. See what happens there. In other news of organizations trying to shake things up a little bit, the Miami Dolphins are bringing on Troy Aikman to help them with the search. I said head coach. Maybe I'm trying to get your boy with the glasses fired, but they're looking to bring in somebody for a general manager, and it looks like they're bringing Troy Aikman to help with the general manager search. Let me help you right here. There's this guy sitting in ESPN Bristol that can do the job, has done the job, pretty successful and knowledgeable about talent. Louis Riddick is your guy. I don't know why y'all keep doing these GM searches and you're recycling these guys that are in bad organizations and elevating them up, or going to take somebody else from another organization that works very well with a head coach and figuring out things. Stop. Go get Louis Riddick. As much as a Patriot fan as I am, I don't want Louis Riddick to go over there because he could actually put a team together that's actually going to be competitive. And now it's a three-headed monster in the AFC East, and there's no way three of those teams are going to make it into the playoffs every year. And we're already in a battle with Buffalo. If Miami gets any better, I'm not counting the Jets. The Jets, I don't know what they could do to fix their life. I think they're in punishment for whatever they did along these years. What the Jets need to do is go get another guy that's sitting at Bristol that's know the organization, been in there and had success. Go get Rex Ryan to come back and coach that team. It should turn some things around. I know you're I know you're sticking with Aaron. Y'all already came out there and said you're sticking with Aaron, and there's nothing wrong with Aaron. I think the Jets it's a flawed team up and down. And they didn't put a team well together. Yeah. So, anyways, off my tangent. Dolphins. Your GM search is going to be quick and easy. It's called Louis Riddick. Go hire that man. So let's get into the games that happened this past week. We had some games that did not matter whatsoever, and there was one game that shouldn't have mattered, did matter. That's going to affect what happens this week. There's seeding implications. There's a couple teams that should have won and lost, and now we're just trying to figure it all out with 1 week left to go. Now, the only thing that did not change, the teams that are in the playoffs last week are still in the playoffs this week, except for 4 teams that are still battling to get in as division winners, which will be the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Carolina Panthers and the Tampa Bay Bucks. Those 4 are playing for their lives. It's a winner take all in both situations, except for one we'll talk a little bit later because they will need help even if they win, which is crazy in itself. So the things kicked off for 3 games on Thursday night. The Cowboys won over the Commanders 30-23. Dak looked good. 307, 2 touchdowns. The Cowboys did release Diggs, who was eventually claimed by the Packers. That should help them out on their playoff run, especially with you not having Micah Parsons as a de facto game breaker. It's good to have 2 good solid cornerbacks that could hold those wide receivers in check somewhat to let the little pass rush that you have get to the quarterbacks while you make this playoff run. The Lions keep sliding. I know they're not playing for anything, but I don't know what happened with the Lions. They end up losing to the Minnesota Vikings 23-10. I had high hopes for the Lions. I had them as a playoff team. They're still a great team. They're well coached. I just think some things went bad in their directions. They allowed to certain teams to stick around to the point where now they're not in the playoffs. Broncos get back to their winning ways against let's be honest. Without Patrick Mahomes at the helm, do you see the Chiefs actually winning anything, even with Travis Kelce? I know the game ended in 2013, but right now the Broncos are still holding on to the number 1 seed with the win over the Chiefs. Saturday brought some games that did matter, though. The Texans went over the Chargers, improved their seeding with a 20-16 win. The Chargers are getting healthier, so don't let this fool you. Chargers and the Rams are one of those teams that are getting healthier at the right time, where other people are getting banged up. They're getting healthier and getting some guys back just in time for their playoff run. So don't sleep on this little skid that the Chargers have fell through. The Texans, their defense is what's leading their way, and as long as CJ Stroud does not turn the ball over, they have a decent running game. The Texans will be a hard out in the playoffs and can potentially upset a higher seed in that first round. The Ravens in a must-win game beat the limping Packers 41-24, setting up a matchup of a winner-take-all versus the Steelers. The Ravens, you could have won the week prior against the Patriots, where you shut down Henry when you had no Lamar. I didn't get it then. You seen that you could have ran against the Patriots for some reason, whatever the case may be. Maybe he was injured and we just did not see it, and that's why he was on the sidelines. But you come back the next week and you run Henry like the workhorse that he is, and on his back and with his legs, he brings you into contention where now you could potentially fulfill what I've been saying all season. The Ravens winning the division and being in the playoffs, and the Steelers are on the outside looking in. I think the Ravens is a scary team to play. They play good enough defense to where they have a good pass rush. They have some corners. Linebackers are pretty good. They have a good defense. And if you have Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in the backfield, it's you can't just play soft coverages. You have to account for Lamar Jackson. If you bring too much in the box, they're going to burn you with their tight ends who are very smart and know how to find those holes in the gaps and quick passes from Lamar Jackson. Then they're not going to be world beaters down the field. Can they do that also? They can. Lamar Jackson does have a cannon of an arm that he could put it down there. Is it the most accurate? No. But if he's playing that intermediate game with you and then handing off the ball to Derrick Henry and getting 4 or 5 yards per carry, and then he could spin out of something and then turn nothing into something, I if you're the AFC, you're rooting for the Steelers because that's a better matchup for you, even though DK Metcalf is coming back for the playoff run. But Henry and Lamar is a neutralizer to whatever you got going on offense. If Baltimore uses Henry the way they just used Henry last week, the problem that I always see when Lamar is healthy and in the game, they tend to go away from Henry. They focus more on Lamar, but when Huntley's in the game, who can do the same exact thing, not as high as a level as a Lamar, he can do the same exact things as Lamar. They tend to shy away from handing the ball off so much to King Henry, and they use their scat backs instead they could dink and dunk in the backfield, and they go outside and let Lamar eat the inside or find running lanes. I don't like that recipe because a lot of teams know how to play that. They're gonna put that linebacker as a spy, or a nickel corner comes in and spies Lamar Jackson, where all you gotta do is bump him real quick, slow him down, and let the rest of the guys come and gang tackle. If you have a smart defense that plays their lanes, you are not as fearful with a Lamar Jackson. But if you're handing off the ball to Henry, a lot of these guys got to make business decisions for 60 minutes. And after a while, that hammer just keeps baiting you and beating you and beating you. I think it's a recipe for where the Ravens can make a run in the playoffs. But we'll see what happens. Lamar said that he is playing this Sunday. He's not missing this Sunday. So Ravens, go out there and do what you got to do. You win, you're in. That's all that matters. You set yourself up to where if you win this last game of the season, you're in. Let's go on to the Sunday games. Sunday's games didn't disappoint. Some with a lot of intrigue. Some played no bearings or anything at all. Like Bengals beat down on the Cardinals 37-14. The Browns harassed Aaron Rodgers. And in absence of DK Metcalf, which if you watch that game, there's a couple of plays where those would have been plays that would have been going to DK Metcalf. And with his size and his athleticism, the Steelers would have scored a couple of touchdowns and would have won that game and won the division outright. It wouldn't even have mattered what the Ravens did. But because they lose to the Browns 13-6, they open themselves up to potentially not being in the playoffs. Now they're in a winner take all with the Baltimore Ravens to keep their season alive. Again, they won't be playing with DK Metcalf. You have, yes, Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers, the mystique of Aaron Rodgers. Can Aaron Rodgers come in and dominate that game and win the Steelers into the playoffs? Absolutely. I'm not putting it past them. But you know how you combat that? You run the ball with Derrick Henry. You keep Aaron Rodgers on the sideline and allow yourself a chance to grind it out, put points on the board. Don't allow Aaron Rodgers to take over the game. But you say all that to say this: TJ Watt is coming back. So this is going to be a good game this Sunday night with the Steelers and the Ravens. Well, we'll see how that plays out over there. In other news, Myles Garrett did not get the sack record in that game, so he still one away from breaking the record. One away from breaking the record, because right now he has 22. I believe the record is 22 and a half. One would break the record. The Saints beat the Titans 34-26. It seems like the Saints can't lose all of a sudden. Tyler Shuck, I believe I'm saying his name right. The Saints got something. The Saints got something. Develop and build around that young man, and I see you guys doing something very, 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 very good for your near and dear future here. Who else? Jags win against the Colts. Surprise, surprise. Closer than the score I would have liked, but 23-17. Looking to take the AFC South title this week if they haven't already. They're in the driver's seat to win the AFC South title. Should they lose, they open up the door for the Texans, but I don't know the tiebreakers in that situation, because they would have a tie record at that point if they lose and the Texans win. Bucks lose again. I don't know what's going on in Tampa Bay, but for some reason, when that big marquee matchup happened with the Bucks versus the Patriots, and the Patriots came to town, and Drake May and Mike Vrabel beat the Bucks, since then they've gone 1-7. After starting the season 6-2, Baker Mayfield was in the talks of the MVP and all this, and that's what made the game so magnifying. Can Drake May and the Patriots go into Tampa and beat Tampa? They did, and ever since then, it's been a free fall for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who even in a loss to Miami, 20-17, still has a chance to win their division, because the Panthers don't want to take the division. They've been sitting in places where win, take the division. No. Win, take the division. No. Now it's to the point where now it's a winner take all. But here's the crazy part. Even if the Bucks win, if the Falcons beat the Saints, the Bucks lose. Well, the Bucks are out of the playoffs, and the Panthers win by rule of tiebreaker. So the Falcons, even with playing for nothing, can still dictate what happens in the AFC South in that division. It's crazy to me, but this is what happens when you lose games that you're supposed to win. I don't know what's going on with Tampa Bay. They're a good team, solid defense. Baker Mayfield's playing MVP caliber football, and after a loss, you have won one game for the remainder of the season. Now you just need to win one more. Make it a 2-7 record to close out the season, and you win in the playoffs. And when you're in the playoffs, it doesn't even matter, and you get to host the game. Just win the game, and pray that the Falcons don't play spoiler and win their game as well. Patriots take care of business and beat down the Jets 42-10. Drake May passes for 256 and 5 touchdowns. He not only keeps himself in the MVP conversations, but depending on how the voters are going to look at it, my opinion, taking my fan hat off, it still was a 1-2 race between him and Matthew Stafford. The numbers favored Matthew Stafford, but when you carve up, granted, it's the Jets. Let's be completely honest. It's the Jets you're playing against here. You're not doing this against some world beater playoff team. But you did what you're supposed to do in the eyes of the voters. 256, 5 touchdowns. You really have to look at this situation when it comes to this MVP race. And Drake should get enough first place votes to make this a competition against Matthew Stafford. But we'll talk more later about this MVP race. The Seahawks, they take care of their business. They beat the Panthers 27-10, keeping them in control of the number 1 seed in the NFC and forcing the Panthers to go earn their division title against the Bucks next week. The Seahawks, though, you are in control of the number 1 seed. You also are playing for a lot this last week of the season against the San Francisco 49ers. You win, you lock up number 1. You lose, you're not only losing your division, you're also losing the number 1, and tiebreakers with your division, depending on how it all plays out, you might be dropping down to as low as 6. So Seahawks, take care of your business this week. Giants can't even lose right. These guys are sitting in a position where they could be drafting one, if not two, in the draft this year. They go out and blow out the Raiders 34-10, giving the Raiders the inside track to the number one draft pick. Boy, did the Raiders fall off, huh? Anyways, not staying too long there. Eagles pull out a game that they shouldn't even had been in. They beat the Bills 13-12. As a Patriot fan, I was happy. That gave us the division. It gave us our T-shirts and hats in the situation. The first time we won the division in 5 years. And it's still, I think the Buffalo Bills are beatable. Now, as long as they have Josh Allen, though there's people, to include myself, that's always going to say, as long as you have 17 back there, you have a fighting chance, right? But the thing is, I'm watching Buffalo. When they win most of these games, the last 3 to 4 weeks that I've watched them play, 3 weeks that I've watched them play to include the Patriot game, they need the referees to bail them out in certain situations that keep certain drives alive, where the defenses are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and then the refs will find the most ticky-tack call, and that's the ones that they call and that keeps them alive and end up winning the game. That's the game of football. Sometimes it comes down to that yellow flag coming in your favor, or sometimes not in your favor also plays out well for you too, right? But the Bills had their chance. They had their chance at the end to either tie the game or go for the 2-point conversion. Me personally, the way the Eagles were playing, I'm tying the game and let's go to overtime, because I believe, I could be completely wrong. I don't even think they passed for more than 15 yards in that second half. I don't even think they totaled more than 50 yards of offense in that second half when it came to the Eagles. So why not just go to overtime? I get it. Josh Allen has a whole foot thing. He didn't look himself in them last quarters. There was a few times where I felt as though a healthy Josh Allen is taking that lane and running for the 15, 17 yards, if not that touchdown, but it never did happen. So I do think that they wanted to get out of that game quickly, and they had to play, but Josh just missed them. Shakir in the back for the 2-point conversion, that's giving the Eagles the game. The Eagles, to me, yes, they're getting Milton back in the middle. That's going to help their defense out. Their defense necessarily is not the problem. Their offense is still clunky. And when they go against bad teams, yes, they do what they're supposed to do. But when they're going against playoff teams, for some reason, something is not clicking right. And you have the talent. You have the talent up and down. You have Smith, you have Brown, you have running, you have Hurts. Your offensive line is not shaky. So I just don't know what's going on in Philadelphia. But right now, this Philadelphia team, I don't see even making out of the wild card. I think there's teams hoping to play Philadelphia. Yeah, you won your division, you're hosting a game. Because you're hosting a game, maybe you make it out of the wild card round. But I could see an up. I'm saying upset, but I don't even think it's an upset. The only reason why it would be an upset is because you're home and you're the defending champs. But time will tell how it all works out. Me personally, if I'm in the NFC, I'm chomping at the bit to go play the Eagles. I'm chomping at the bit to go play whoever's the Panthers Bucks game, because I could go into their hometown and win that game and move it along. So we'll see what happens. In the Sunday night game, Brock Purdy, like Drake May, put on a clinic with him and Christian McCaffrey, put the 49ers on their back to win 42-38, setting up a showdown against the Seahawks, like I said earlier, for Week 18, not only for the division, but for the number one seed in the NFC. The 49ers, withstanding losing their quarterback for a month, lost 2 key defensive players for the season. For some reason, Kyle Shanahan have these 49ers with Christian McCaffrey, who has been healthy predominantly the whole season. I don't even think he was ever injured at all this season, which is amazing in itself for somebody who's pretty much always on the injury report. But Kyle Shanahan is the only coach that I'm looking at right now that's really giving Mike Vrabel some competition for Coach of the Year. I know there's some teams that turn some things around. You got Jacksonville, you got a couple other hot teams in that's playing some great ball. Seattle's playing some great ball also. But I watched Sam Darnold turn the Minnesota Vikings around and finish with a 14-3 record. He's there doing the same thing, and they have JSN also, who's like just throw the ball his direction. He's going for a touchdown. You know what I mean? So like the some of these teams, when I look at what Kyle Shanahan had to endure to now be looking at winning the division and potentially the number one seed when the Super Bowl's in your house. So that means you not only stay home to play the last game of the season, win that, you win the division and you win the number one seed. You get the bye week to get a little bit healthier. And then you just got to play 2 home games and then stay home for the Super Bowl. That's a story the NFL did not see coming at all. So when I hear the talks about Coach of the Year and it's not Mike Vrabel at the lead and they throw Kyle Shanahan's name in there, I respect it. I still think you turn around a 4-12 team. Yeah, they're gonna try to use a schedule against you, but you've seen Mike Vrabel turn this thing around. It wasn't like they went out and got a whole bunch of world beaters in New England. You know, he put the right staff around him, got the right players that would fit what he wanted to do in New England and create the culture that he wanted to create. And he did that. That to me, you turning a franchise from worst to first, because they have the potential to be the number one seed also. So you're talking about two organizations that are vying for number one seed who potential one already won the division, one could win the division. Yeah, you're those are my candidates for Coach of the Year. As a Patriot fan, you want to see it go to your guy, but you know, if Kyle Shanahan wins it, I could swallow that one, right? Pause. Yeah. So let's see what you're gonna do out here, San Francisco. Let's go take care of some business and win yourself the division and put yourself in a position where you and Tampa Bay, I think, was the last team to do that, play the Super Bowl at home, and win it, right? Kyle Shanahan's been at that doorstep a few times and fallen short. And he's had the teams, and this is the team that he gets to the Super Bowl and could potentially win it with. That'd be crazy. And the only reason why I say that this is the team, when you lose significant injuries to the defensive side of the ball, two star players, Warner at linebacker, Bosa at DN, those are crucial positions, and to do what you're doing and you lost your starting quarterback for a month, that's insane. That's insane. That's good coaching. Um, and then Monday night closed out the week with a stunning loss. Guys, I tell people all the time, don't let these bad teams stay in these games. You you start slow, which the Rams did against the Falcons, and end up losing 27-24. Thus putting you out of conversations of division, thus putting you out of conversations of first number one seed. I still think you're the most complete team in the NFL. This is the loss or losses that you've accumulated these past few weeks does not change my mind about that. I think you've had some banged up players. You have some coming back. I think Adams not playing those last few games for you guys with the hamstring and should come back in time for the playoffs. Changes the dynamic of a lot of things because Puka Nacua is gonna anything you throw his way is gonna. The man almost had that one-handed grab on the end zone. We had to put it in slow mo just to see that the ball dislodged for like 2 seconds while he was falling out of bounds, and ruled it not a catch. If that was a catch, the Rams actually win this game. But it is what it is. You put yourself in a bad situation, and the Falcons was running all over you. B.J. Robinson looked like a freak of nature, running all over the place. I think he had almost over 300 yards of scrimmage yards and 195 rushing yards. Like it's insane. And there's this crazy stat that I heard while I was listening to ESPN. The Falcons are like 8-7 when in games after they get eliminated from the playoffs. It's those are the teams that when they have not, those are the ones that I tell you guys that you have to be careful for. They're playing for nothing but pride at the end of the season. They notice. Some of them are playing for their contracts. Some of them are playing for more playing time, whatever the case may be. Those are the teams you do not want to have standing around, lingering, because then you end up with things like this 27-24. And now it puts you where you're locked in pretty much at 5-6 seed. Now, granted, you're one of those teams that I'm talking about where a 5-6 seed, that means you're either going to Tampa Bay or you're going to whoever else is in that in the Eagles. The Eagles or Tampa Bay. You're probably chomping at the bits. Like you go into their house, you take care of business, and you get this playoff run going. Do not make me look stupid. Oh, I've been telling these people you're the most complete team in the NFL. I honestly believe that. I take my Patriot hat off. I think the Patriots are the best team, obviously, right? But that'd be Delulu for me to say. The Rams, up and down, coaching, advising, executive, most complete team in the NFL. But they didn't take care of business, and now they're still in the playoffs. So we'll see. With all that nonsense, let's just see what that did to standings in division races. AFC East, I already told you the Patriots won the division, and they still have a chance to win the number one seed with a win and a Broncos loss. Buffalo is the seventh seed, can go as high as six with a loss either by the Texans or the Chargers. If both lose, they could go as high as five. I'm pretty sure Buffalo and the Patriots will both be scoreboard watching. I think if Buffalo could see that maybe Buffalo wants to stay at seven. Maybe they want to hang out and like, hey, we know what we got at New England. They shouldn't have beat us the first time. We went and took care of business the second time, albeit by help with the referees. But whatever, you won, you won. Maybe they feel that that's the matchup that they want. Try it if you like. I don't think you want that matchup with New England. I think they'll be way more disciplined they were last time to keep those flags in those referees' back pocket to allow them to win the game. Because what I saw defensively and offensively, the Patriots was the better team on that field that day in both the games that you guys played. But it's the playoffs. Playoffs bring on a different type of energy, more pressure, but the Patriots are at home and they remember that they lost a game where they could have been a hat and t-shirt game for them to you guys and a loss that they should not have lost. So we'll see what happens there. AFC North, I kind of already told you guys the Pittsburgh and Steelers play for it all. Winner takes all, no tiebreakers, no if this person win, that person win, it doesn't matter. Whoever wins this game wins the division and they're locked in at number 4. Whoever loses, my opinion, I think the organization, not that they're doing a bad job, I think the organization just moves on from their coach. They'll mutually part ways, and whoever that coach is will be the number one candidate on everybody's list that's looking for a head coach. I don't want to see neither one of these coaches come anywhere near the Miami Dolphins. Thank God they're sticking with my guy out there with the shades. We'll see what happens there. I think one of them will, and whoever it is, I think the Tennessee Titans job, as bleak as it may seem right now, you do have a number one pick quarterback. I know it's not the guy that you selected, but you're going to get another high pick. Maybe you just wash it all out but you don't know what ownership wants. Maybe ownership wants to keep on the Cam Ward. So we'll see what happens. Win and take all in the AFC North. AFC South, the Jags need to win to take the division and lock themselves in at the 3rd seed. A loss will drop them out of hosting a game on the road, either as a 5th through 7th seed, depending on what happens in the Texans, Chargers, and Bills game. Jacksonville just needs to focus on a win, because if they win and the Patriots and Broncos lose, they have a chance at the number 1 seed. So a lot on the line for the Jags this week also. Houston needs to win and a Jags loss, and they could win the division. They'll be hosting a game at a third seed, I believe they would place in. I don't see them going higher than 2 or 1, even if both the Broncos and the Patriots lose. I think if both of them lose, they both sit 1-2, and then the Texans would be 3. AFC West, the Broncos already won the division, but need to win to hold on to the number 1 seed. If they lose, they could drop to 2, if not even 3, depending on what the Patriots and Jaguars games produce. Both those games are happening at the same exact time, so we'll see. A lot of people will be scoreboard watching. If it becomes a thing where they don't see anything, that's when you start pulling your players. Like, let's get ready for the playoffs. Broncos, you got to play it all the way through. You can't pull your players. Your advantage in this playoff is mile high. That's your 14th, 15th player on the field. The Chargers are in the playoffs, but can only go as high as 5, I believe, with the Texans loss. But if they lose and the Bills win, they will drop all the way down to 7, setting a date where either New England or Denver, whoever doesn't get the number 1 seed, will be the number 2 seed. I don't know if the Chargers want to come across. Who are the Chargers playing this week? Let's take a look here. Da 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 da. So the Chargers are playing. Where are you? So you're playing the Broncos. You would then, I don't know what logistics would look like, but go back home out west just to travel all the way across the country again to either go to New England or potentially play the Broncos again. Just take care of business, Chargers. That's all you got to do. Take care of business and let the chips fall where the chips fall. But if you could avoid that 7 hole, not only are you traveling across country, Dome, California team coming to New England in December. January. Oh, damn, we're in the new year. Happy New Year, by the way. Yeah. To all those that are watching, Happy New Year. I jumped right into this, started talking sports, and didn't even acknowledge the new year for you guys. So yeah. We'll see what happens with the AFC West, NFC East. The Eagles won the division about 3 weeks ago. Nothing changed there. I don't see the Eagles make a real playoff run. I honestly believe the upset will happen because they're hosting a game, and whoever is the 5th or 6th seed is probably chomping at the bits to play these Eagles. I don't think they put any fear into anybody as they used to. Something is weird, something is off, and they'll need to figure that out during the off season. In the NFC North, the Bears took the division, and with the win, stay at number 2. With the loss, could drop to 3. Still hosting a game, but I think they'd want to stay at 2 to host the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers are locked in at 7, so I think a lot of the Green Bay Packers seem to be an easy matchup for whoever locks in at number 2. So we'll see how those play out. And Green Bay and Bears, that'd be a good matchup yet again for those two. Green Bay is on a slide, and because of Detroit not playing well, they allow the Packers to stay in. But I still think with the loss of Micah, even with you bringing in Diggs, it's hard to see me saying that you're going to actually compete in these playoffs. I had you as probably potentially not even making it into the playoffs and giving the Detroit that last spot, but Detroit seemed to not want it as much, and they allowed you to stay in. I think you're a first round exit with the loss of Micah, unfortunately. Because you're locked in at number 7. There's nowhere else you could go. And if you're the Bears or the Eagles, you're looking for that matchup because it's let me not say easy because there's nothing easy and anything can happen. Jordan Love could go on a tear, right? But Jordan Love also could get knocked out of a game, which we've seen happen in a couple of games already. So, and it changes the dynamic. Great backup. Malik comes in and he changes up the dynamic of the games. If Christian Watson's available, I'm not saying they're easy out, but teams would rather play the Packers than another team like the Rams or the Seahawks or the 49ers, right? So let's be completely honest with ourselves. Teams would rather play other teams. They know, they see just as much as we see. In the NFC South, and the craziness of it all, the Bucks and Panthers are playing for winner take all, even though it's not a winner take all on the Bucks side. The Panthers win, they outright win the division. They're in, they're locked in at number 4. But if the Bucks win, because the Falcons won last week by tiebreakers, they would still be out of the playoffs because the Panthers, by common opponents, would win because they have a tie record. It's craziness, I know. So you could still win your game, do what you're supposed to do, but still could be out because the Falcons would try to play spoiler. Granted, the Falcons are playing a red hot Saints team who's won, I believe, 5 in a row now. We'll see what happens. The Bucks, if you get knocked out by some tiebreaker, it's on you. You created this madness for yourself. You made it to where you're in a situation where now you're playing for it all. You had the MVP candidate at quarterback. You had a fresh hot start, 6-2, and ever since then you've won one game for the remainder of the season. That you did it to yourself. Nobody to blame but yourself. In the NFC West, which I've been calling all season the best division in football, it's a massive week for these guys. Between the Seahawks and the 49ers playing for the division and the number 1 seed, whoever wins that one. But if Seahawks wins and the Rams win and would drop San Fran to 6 and the Rams to 5, it's so much moving pieces with just one game on the line. And the Rams still got to do what they got to do as well. I think if anybody's looking to drop, they're not going to drop as low as 7 because the Packers are pretty essentially locked into 7. So you're looking at 5 or 6. 5 or 6 is not a bad hole to be in because you're looking at potentially, if you're at 6, you go into Philadelphia. Like I said before, I don't see Philly making out of the wild card game, even with Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts, that offensive line, the defense getting better. Something is just off in Philadelphia. Prove me wrong. I don't see you making some type of deep run, especially when you have to match up against a team potentially like the Rams or the Seahawks or even the 49ers that you can't do a shootout with them. We've seen it. You can't compete with those type of teams. So we'll see what happens there. With that, that's the division breakdown. Let's talk about the games of the week. We kind of already started talking about them on Saturday. There's two big games on Saturday with the Panthers and the Bucks for the division. And again, that's for the division with an asterisk because if the Bucks win, they still gotta wait to see what the Falcons doing after on the Sunday game to really determine who won that division. Seahawks at 49ers. This is for the division and the number 1 seed, with a lot of seeding implications also with the Rams, with where the Rams will fall by virtue of tiebreakers. Sunday games, you have the Saints at the Falcons. Again, the only reason why I have this as a game of the week because it dictates the division if the Bucks win. Normally, this game would not even matter. The Browns and Bengals is another game that wouldn't even matter, but I'm only putting it as game of the week because Myles Garrett just needs one more sack to break the record, the season sack record. It's the only reason why that's here. The Chargers and Broncos, big time implication type games. Broncos win and they lock up the number 1 seed. With a loss, that drops, and the Patriots win, it pretty much puts them down to 2 and could be even as low as 3 because the Jaguars could potentially jump over them as well. So a lot on the line for the Broncos. The Chargers, you just want to get a win going into the playoffs. Your seeding could only go only so far up. You're still locked in at 5 through 6. If not 7, depending on how a lot of other games end up. Dolphins, New England, not saying it because I'm a Patriot fan. It's because they have the number 1 seed on the line. I think they'll be scoreboard watching, but at the same time, even with scoreboard watching, you don't really want to lose the 2 slot also. I think whether it be Buffalo, you would want that matchup as well. But if the Chargers lose, they could drop down as low as 7 with the wins by Texans and all that other stuff. You would want a stumbling Chargers team, albeit they're getting a little bit healthier at the right time. But a California team coming across the country for a playoff game in January, like I said earlier, it's hard for you to pick that team away the New England Patriots are playing right now. Um, and then the last game of the regular season comes down to a winner take all with the Ravens versus the Steelers. It's gonna be a big game for both teams. I These teams know each other very well. These teams are gonna come in well prepared by the coaches. Um, I do feel as though that DK Metcalf suspension is gonna be the downfall of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I just think that the Ravens have the formula for playoff football. Run the ball, keep the other team's offense on the sideline. And when you have King Henry, you have to make business decisions. When you have Lamar Jackson, you have to play a different type of coverage where you're losing one player to just standing around and watching Lamar. You have to stay disciplined with your lanes. When you're not disciplined with your lanes, you go inside of that line, you go inside if you're that end. When you should be on the outside, there goes that lane for Lamar Jackson, and he's burning you for 50 yards. All right. So gonna be a great Sunday night game to close out the season. That's the slate of games that I have for games of the week. Going to the last week of the season, my top 5 teams. We're gonna start with some honorable mentions in this order: Jaguars, Bears, and Texans. I think are some hot teams streaking at the right time. Good quarterback play, good defense. And I say good defenses for the Jags and the Bears, not necessarily for the Texans. I think the Texans have a great defense, and defense travels on the road, at home. Texans is going to be one of the hardest outs out of those 3 teams. I still don't think that they're a top 5 team. My top 5 teams starting at number 5, I got the 49ers. You don't do what you do all season and not end up as one of the top five teams. Clearly, we've been sleeping on the 49ers, to include myself. What Christian McCaffrey have been doing, holding it down. You lose Brock Purdy for a month, and probably even another injury slowed him down for another game. Also, you lose 2 of your starting defensive players and defensive edge and at linebacker. That gets you into the top 5 to close out the season, because now you're talking about not only being in the playoffs, you have a chance at winning the division, and you have a chance at the number 1 seed. That to me is definitely grounds for a top 5 team. I have the Broncos in at number 4. You hold the number 1 seed. You've been a good team. Your defense plays outrageous. If you could lock up to that number 1 seed, you put yourself in a position on an inside track to, especially playing at Mile High. It's like you're playing 14 players, right? Um, I have them in at number 4. At number 3, I had to slide down the Rams a little bit. Even though I've been saying you're the most complete team, there seems to be a little bit of flaws these last few weeks that I've seen, where you're playing from behind. And yes, you could do the heroics all day, every day, but we see playing the heroics, playing from behind doesn't always play in your favor. You've lost 2 key games doing that. But Adams coming back, you have some offensive linemen coming back, some defensive players coming back at the right time. So I see you making a deep run. As one of my picks, anyways. No surprise here. I still have you representing the NFC for the Super Bowl. Depending on how everything plays out, matchups do play a part in a lot of this stuff. But based off of how I see things happening, which we'll discuss in a little bit, I have the Rams going to the Super Bowl. My number 2 team would be the Seahawks. Seahawks have been taking care of business, and they have a chance to lock up the number 1 seed in the NFC. Surprise, surprise. Number 1 team going into week 18 for me is the Patriots. I don't care about a damn schedule. I'm not those people. You play who's on your schedule. I don't care what it is. I beat up on the teams that I'm supposed to beat up on. The games that you put me as underdogs, I come in there, I win them. in key games. And had I won that Buffalo game when the referees were throwing yellow flags all over the place, it'd be hard for you to not have me as the number one team in the AFC, if not the league right now. I know some people will have the Rams higher. Some people would like the Seahawks a little bit more, but the Patriots is a top 5 team across the board. They just happen to be number one on my books. Yeah, that's part fandom, and that's part from what I see. I don't think a lot of teams, you sleep on the Patriots if we want to, but you don't want to play them in the playoffs, especially if they're at home. So here's my playoff predictions. For the AFC, I have the Bills staying in at number 7 at 12-5, the Chargers at 6 at 12-5, the Texans at 12-5 at number 5. The Ravens get in by beating the Steelers at number 4 at 9-8. The Broncos slide down to 3 with a loss this week to 13-4. The Jags move up to 2 at 13-4, and the Patriots hold on to the number 1 seed with a 14-3 record. In the matchups, that would, if that is what plays out, you would have the Texans at the Ravens, the Chargers at the Broncos, the Bills at the Jags, and the Patriots on a bye week. My predictions, if it stays the way that I'm calling it, it's the Jags win over Buffalo to host the Broncos, who beat the Chargers in a rematch. The Texans will win, bringing that defense. The Texans win and bring that defense up to New England. Broncos hold off the Jags, setting up a matchup in New England behind Drake May and Henderson. They run their way into hosting a conference game. New England wins the conference. Go debate yourself. I said what I said. All this after Drake May and Vrabel gets robbed of MVP and Coach of the Year. Don't care what anybody says. That you heard it here first. New England Patriots are going to the conference by way of how I have these things set up. In the NFC, I have the Packers, who we all know are locked in at 7 at 10-6-1. The Rams fall down to 6 at 12-5. The Seahawks drop down to 5 at 13-4. The Panthers get in by default. The Bucks win. The Panthers get in because the Falcons end up winning. So they're in at 8-9. The Eagles are at 3 at 11-6. The Bears at 2 at 11-6. And the 49ers take the number 1 seed at 13-4. That means the 49ers have the bye week. The Packers go to the Bears, the Rams to the Eagles, the Seahawks at the Panthers. My predictions, if it stays that way and these matchups happen, the Seahawks win over the Panthers, setting up a matchup against the Bears, who prevail at home versus the Packers. The Rams would beat the Eagles to set up a matchup against the division rivals 49ers. The Seahawks will beat the Bears, setting up an NFC West Conference Championship matchup at home against the Rams. The Rams will go and beat the 12 at home to head up the road to in the Bay to play in a Super Bowl rematch of 2001 against the Patriots. My Super Bowl picks are the Rams versus the Patriots. And that's my picks for that. I'm not going to talk about all the other awards. I only want to talk about the awards that I'm actually in the running for. I think we're in the running also for Rookie of the Year with Henderson, but I don't know how high he is on that list for Rookie of the Year. But Coach of the Year and MVP. You have, my opinion, Mike Vrabel and Drake May are in the front seat driving control of this matchup. After what we saw with Matthew Stafford and Drake May, my opinion, and the odds maker said it also, it moved Drake May to winning the MVP. But my opinion and the odds makers' opinions don't really matter. It's going to come down to the voters. And the voters, for some reason, love to change the goalposts a lot. They'll try to use the schedule. They'll try to do whatever it may be. But the numbers don't lie. The numbers are still the numbers. Drake May did what he was supposed to do. He's played at an MVP caliber all season long. He is the MVP. Now everybody is talking about Christian McCaffrey in the MVP set. They now, instead of, we ain't talked about Christian McCaffrey all season long. But now all of a sudden, oh, look what Christian McCaffrey. Yeah, they've been doing it the whole time. We still wasn't paying attention to them. Yes. Can you give him a legitimate chance at Christian McCaffrey being in the running? I think he is number 3 behind Matthew Stafford and behind Drake May. Kyle Shanahan and Mike Vrabel for Coach of the Year. Like I said earlier, if Kyle Shanahan was to win, I get it. To do what you did with as little as you had, yes, that's Coach of the Year material. But to turn a whole franchise around after the great Bill Belichick, after the debacle of Gerard Mayo, multiple years of 4-12, you come in your first year, you lead a team to a potentially holding, if it goes right the way I predict, the number 1 seed and on a track to play 2 games and you're in the Super Bowl again. How? How do you not keep that as 1, if not 2, on the list behind Kyle Shanahan? I think it's a 2-man race at this point. I'm not mad in any direction that it goes, but when we're talking about the MVP, that resides in New England with Drake May, but I know how you reporters get. You're not going to give it to Drake May. You're not going to give Mike Vrabel the Coach of the Year, which is fine. We'll just go ahead and win the Super Bowl. That's what we really play for out here in New England anyways. Drake May will get his MVP. Mike Vrabel, I don't know if you're going to get the Coach of the Year, but you've won it already once. We know you're the caliber of person that you are. So I'll leave that at that. All right. Let's move on into the segment for college sports and campus legends. All right, guys. College football playoff moves to the semifinals, to the semis. And boy, was I wrong with some of these matchup calls, right? Teams with bye weeks over the past 2 years, they're 1-7 on the season. The only team to win this year was Indiana. It's almost as if you get the bye week. It's literally that rust factor really plays more of a factor with the college kids than it does in the pros. Bye weeks, you relish that in the pros. You get healthier. You get more time to. You still don't know who you're gonna be playing yet, or whatever the case may be. So you're just refining your basics, breaking down the basics to help get you there. Then when you find out who your opponent is, you prepare for that opponent. But in college football playoffs, 1-7 over the last 2 years, it's almost as if you don't even want the bye week at this point. It's like, just let me keep playing. In other news, the transfer portal opened today. I have something later on to talk about at the end of the episode, but the transfer portal opens today. A lot of talented players will be entering the transfer portal. It's a weird time to have the transfer portal open. You have kids that are still playing. You have coaches that are moving around, and they're trying to recruit players. They might be looking at players that are still playing, but I don't even know if they could commit to enter into the transfer portal. It's just a weird situation with the whole transfer portal situation. And what makes things even weirder is when you're talking about the Ole Miss and LSU situation, because Lane Kiffin decided to leave early because he wanted to make sure that he was in place for when the transfer portal opens. So he left Ole Miss. Ole Miss was still playing in the college football playoffs as a number 6 seed. Ole Miss and LSU agreed to let the coaches that are leaving Ole Miss to go to LSU with Lane Kiffin to continue coaching in the college football playoffs. They won 1 week, and they still were allowed to play this last game versus Georgia. Transfer portal opens the following day after that game. But now Ole Miss wins the game. Transfer portal opens. Half staff has to go straight to LSU. Now you won the game. Are these coaches going to be allowed to come back and coach these kids in the next round in a game where they could potentially win and go to the national championship? How long are we going to allow these other coaches to keep coaching and not be on staff recruiting over at LSU. And they came out and said there was a plan for the plan, and we'll just see how it happens. This is very interesting. It's very weird, and I feel as though, and I'll touch on it a little bit later about this whole transfer portal situation. So I'm not gonna go on my rant about it yet. Let's go into the games that actually happened. So Miami, we start off with Miami stunning Ohio State Buckeyes, the defending champs, who all season was the number one team in the league, and then they lost the Big Ten championship to Indiana, and then their next time out, they get stunned by Miami, 24-14, and yeah, we say stunned, but it's like when you watch the game. It's ended up 24-14, but I don't think the Buckeyes were ever really in this game. I think um I it was hard watching that game because I had the Buckeyes as one of the I had them returning to the national championship. There's nothing that you could have told me that was going to say that they were not going back to the national championship. But clearly, I was completely wrong. And Miami did what Miami was supposed to do. And Buckeyes, you got I don't even know what you got to figure out. You have by far the best wide receivers, pro level receivers. Sane played good. I think they just figured out how to rattle him in that Indiana game, gave people a blueprint on how to beat Ohio State. And they did exactly that same blueprint and they won the game. Not much I can say about that one. Oregon goes in and beats Texas Tech 23-0. Another bye week team goes down. Oregon looked good in the game, just like they did the previous week, but I really want to see how they do this week. You're now going to play the number one team. And by all accounts, watching that team play, I'm sipping the Kool-Aid a little bit. So yeah, you watch Indiana go and beat Alabama down for their worst loss in school history, 38-3. Alabama, to me, this game is indicative of what NIL does, right? Alabama, like me and other people, we're saying they're going to win because they're Alabama. But like in New England, we had to learn the mystique dies after a while. People don't fear you as much when they could be as competitive as you. You don't have Nick Saban on that sideline. You don't have the team where back in the day your third string guy is pro ready. They just want their chance to go play. But with NIL now, you're not as stacked as you want to be. These players are not flocking to Alabama anymore because they don't have to. So now, Alabama, you have to figure out how you're going to get these top recruits in the day of NIL where they could go to an Indiana and start and not wait 2 years behind somebody else before they get their chance and have to keep entering the portal, entering the portal, entering the portal. I love it. I love what the NIL has done to college football, most especially, because everybody now has a chance. Everybody now has a chance. When a basketball school becomes the number one team in the land, and they started making noise ever since last year. So let's not get it twisted. They didn't just come out of nowhere. They were making noise last year. This year they came back with a vengeance, and they're showing us that NIL has leveled the playing field to where a Miami is stunning people left and right and have the potential to play for a national championship with Beck because he entered the portal. And with the money in NIL, they ended up in Miami, and now between him and that front seven in Miami, they have a chance at winning the national championship. You know, when I look at the last four that's remaining, ain't no major big blue blood football program schools here. There's no Georgias, there's no Alabamas, there's no Clemsons, there's no LSUs, there's none of those. You have Miami, Ole Miss, Oregon, and Indiana. That's your Final Four. And as someone who doesn't have a college football team, I like players, and like I have no affiliation to any of these programs. I just like good football. And NIL has created good football. With that being said, Ole Miss outlast Georgia in the last game, 39-34. And I watched that game, and again, it reminds me of the Alabama game. Yes, Georgia was competitive, unlike Alabama, but teams are not afraid of these powerhouse schools anymore because they're able with NIL to go get a Trinidad. They're able to go out there and go get these wide receivers and put a competitive team out on the field. This ain't the first round when you was playing Tulane where you expected to do that stuff. This ain't the first round where James and Madison, it's great stories for those programs to come in. We've already touched that stuff. But with NIL, even with NIL, you're not telling me that, again, the toppest of recruits, let's be serious. You still want to go play in one of these Power Four schools, Power Four conferences. You want to go play in one of these big name schools. This is what you do it for. And we're going to have a new champ that's not a repeat champ from the past 5 or 6 years. Bama, Georgia, LSU, and all that. You're going to have a new champ. And I love it. So the Final Four is set up like this. Number 10 versus number 6, Ole Miss. My opinion, watching these games, that front seven of Miami is truthful. Trinidad's not going to be able to be running around for dear life and then making a play out of nowhere. And for me, it's going to come down to what coaches are still there to coach this game, right? Um, Hearing a different voice changes the dynamics of play calling. People have different ways of wanting to do stuff. I know some of them, from what I'm hearing, they were on the headsets also. They're listening to what's going on for in the event these assistant coaches do end up not able to coach this week and they move on to LSU. But just because you're on the headsets, you might have had your own play that you wanted to call. Does that play call changes what happens in this game? Miami does not look like they're slowing down for anybody. So Ole Miss, you're really going to have to figure this one out, or Miami's going to pull off another upset for another round. Number 5 Oregon versus number 1 Indiana. Um, Honestly, watching Indiana, like I said, I'm already sipping the Kool-Aid a little bit. I like the Oregon Ducks. I just don't think that they have the horses to play a shootout with Indiana right now. Indiana is defensively stout. Offensively, Mendoza looks like he earned his Heisman Trophy. Let's be honest. I didn't watch that much Indiana games, to be honest, to actually see here and be like, because I still thought Alabama was going to roll in there and take care of business. But I'm one of those, I'm living off of the past, man. It's the SEC, it's Alabama. They're going to figure it out. But I didn't account for NIL. I didn't account for those teams that are tired of those upper echelon teams. Though I didn't account for those players that Alabama said no to, or LSU said no to, Auburn said no to. We're gonna go in a different direction. I didn't account for those players. Those type of players that have a chip on their shoulder because they wasn't recruited by you, the supposed establishment. Watch us kick down the establishment now. So we'll see what happens in these Final Four games. Let's go over to court vision. I'm gonna run through it because I don't want my basketball people to not tune back in. So, surprise, surprise, I'm talking about the disrespect in the headlines that just happened this week. Jalen Brown got robbed for Player of the Month in the East. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care. I am a Brunson fan. I'm a Brunson fan. I don't really care for Cat, but he's been impressing me as of late. I like the Knicks' new bench with their nucleus that they already had. I think Mitchell Robinson is a problem for a lot of teams. I think Josh Hart is by far one of the best rebounding guards that are out there. He crashes the board. For me, if I'm building a team and I can't get Derek White, give me Josh Hart. Because those two defensively are going to be a problem. They're going to crash the boards, and they don't care about being a star. They know their role, they respect their role, and they do what needs to be done for that guy, right? Let me run down this on why I say Jalen Brown got robbed. Brunson won Player of the Month for the month of December for the East. Brunson's averaging 30.6 points, 3.2 rebounds, 7.1 assists, 40.5% from three, with a team record of 10-4. Nice, right? In that same span, the Celtics went 9-3. All right, the Knicks are a game better. But let's look at Brown's number. 31.7 points average per game in that time frame, right? So you're beating Brunson there. 6.4 rebounds compared to your 3.2 rebounds. You're beating Brunson there. 5.4 assists. Okay. Compared to a 7.1 assist, but you're the point guard. You always have the ball in your hands. Jalen Brown's not a point guard and still averaging almost 5.5 assists a game. So for me, that's I would sway that towards Brown's area. I don't care if the number's higher in Brunson's column. Now let's look at field goal percentage, 53.8. More than half of his shots are going in. Then let's go 3-point. We're talking about 3-point for Brunson, 40.5%. Jalen Brown, 42.6% from three. So we're talking about wins in every statistical category, but yet you're the better team, and you're only one game better in the same 14 game stretch. So Brown has 30 plus points in 9 out of those 10 games. Could have been 10 out of 10, but whatever. We still won that game. Only player in the East to average 36-5, and his team is on a winning side. But you're telling me Brunson wins the Player of the East? I have a rant for you guys later on. So, moving on, Mazzulla did win Coach of the Year. Surprise. Because his team went 9-3. They're doing more with less. The Knicks are expected to be winning. I have the Knicks as the best team in the East until Jason Tatum comes back. When Jason Tatum comes back, y'all motherfuckers better be about 10 games ahead of us, if not 15, because we're coming back storming. Because if we're doing this right now with just JB, what you think is going to happen when you add JT with JB and Derek White? You better stop playing with us. Y'all left us for dead. And y'all still trying to leave us for dead out here, disrespecting JB like this. JB is the player of the East for the month of December. But whatever, I digress. Let's see what else is going on in these headlines. Talks going through all the little ESPN, Bleacher Reports, and all this. Is what's next for LeBron James? What's next for LeBron James? What LeBron James decides, right? He can take a pay cut and stay with the team. The Dirk rule I read somewhere. It'd be a significant pay cut because you're talking about, if I remember correctly, between LeBron and Luka, they're making $93 million, which accounts for like 70% of the salary cap. So something has to change. We know Luka is the future, but LeBron ain't no scrub neither, right? He could also leave in free agency. I know his goals to going out to LA is for business reasons or whatever the case may be, but he's already supplanted himself in the business world out in LA. So maybe he can go and look somewhere else to potentially put himself in a position to win a championship. Especially if you're talking about leaving during free agency, the world's your oyster at that point. Especially, yeah, you're the first active NBA player billionaire. You don't necessarily need to make a large sum of money. I could see LeBron James, because LeBron James is such a historian. He's won with Cleveland. He's won in LA, be it. I am one of those people that put an asterisk right next to that one. It's the bubble championship. I don't care. It was not the same. It's still a championship. Congratulations. But knowing LeBron, he'll take a pay cut, but it ain't gonna be for the Lakers. I could see LeBron going back to the East and playing with the Knicks and making it his retirement year. I ain't gonna go down this rabbit hole with you guys. I just know the historian that LeBron James is. Do you know? You think he has not thought about, if I won in Cleveland, I won in Miami, some good franchises. I went out to LA, I gave them their championship. If you think LeBron's not looking at, if Giannis doesn't leave the Bucks and go to the Knicks, I see LeBron James going to the Knicks, pairing up with Cat, with Brunson, because he'll be leaving during free agency. So they won't have to give up a whole lot to get him. They might have to lose some bench players. He'll have to take some pay cut, but he'll come to the Knicks and put the Knicks in a position to actually win a championship for the first time in, if they don't win this year, it'll be 54 years. So in 55 years, he'll get to hoist a banner in his retirement year with the New York Knicks. You think LeBron James doesn't not know this already? You think the circle around him? You think that I'm the only person that sees this writing on the wall? The Knicks is a solid team. He knows Mike Brown. Mike Brown will let him do what he wants to do. You pair him up with Brunson, Hart, Cat, LeBron, and put Bridges right there, and you don't have to play him in back-to-backs because you have Mitchell Robinson. You have that bench with Clarkson. You have all that other stuff. You don't have to give up nothing that you have right now. And if you don't win a championship this year, LeBron comes to the Knicks and the Knicks win a championship. And that's how they end their drought since 73. I hate to say it. I hate to say it. I hate to say it. But LeBron James gets his sixth championship to tie with Michael Jordan, and he hoists it up in the New York Knicks garden, where Carmelo could not do it, where all these other players could not do it. LeBron James will do it. That's how he's going to retire. Hoisting a banner with the New York Knicks. You heard it here first. Moving on. Giannis, before we move on, the last part is he can retire. LeBron James is not going to retire without a celebratory year of him. I don't care what anybody says. That is whoever you're talking to, number one or number two on anybody's list. I grew up on the Jordan era. I used to be Jordan is the greatest of all time, blah, 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 of all. I do give LeBron a slight edge and have him as my number one, and Kobe my number three. But go debate yourself. I said what I said, and I meant it. Is Giannis really leaving the Bucks? So based off what I just said to you right now, if Giannis was to leave the Bucks, we all know that he's been tied to the Knicks for years now. He loves New York City. I'm pretty sure he would rather go to the Knicks than the Brooklyn. That's for sure. So, but if Giannis comes to the Knicks, you have to give up a lot. You already don't have draft picks because you gave up damn near your whole world for Michael Bridges. So you don't have the picks to give. So that means you're sending players, but you'd have to send a star caliber type players. So is it Michael Bridges packaged up with a couple other players to get the deal done? I don't know if the Bucks. It depends on what the Bucks are though, as an organization. I think if you lose Giannis, you know you're in rebuild mode regardless. So maybe that is enough for them. But does Giannis come into the Knicks? I think you lose too much, and it's not enough to get you over the hump. Now, you wait out for this LeBron James situation to play out. Maybe he just stays in LA. You know, his family's in LA, his kids are in LA. But knowing the billionaire, he probably has a place in New York that he could stay at also. Savannah will come right with him. Zuri will be perfectly fine in a school out here in New York. Both his boys are, one's in college, the other one plays in the league. Maybe they trade the rights to Bronny James to the New York Knicks in that deal also, and the Knicks send a couple of role players. LeBron runs the league. He'll make that happen where his son is with him in his retirement year in the New York Knicks, and his son and him will be the first father-son champion duo. You heard it here first. So let's move along. Trade rumors. Davis is in the trade rumors from out of the Mavs. We all know Kuminga, whatever's going on with him and the Warriors, he's still out there. Trae Young, again, like I said, it depends on what Atlanta's trying to do. Atlanta plays a seesaw game, winning and losing without Trae Young. So maybe at some point you got to figure out what you want to do. It's either you're gonna live and die with Trae Young, or you're just gonna move on from him. Zach LaVine's name is out there for trade rumors as well. One weird trade rumor that's out there is LeBron being traded. The man has a no trade clause, so he'll dictate how that works. And yeah, like KD, he understands you trading for him means you're gutting another team. And does he want to be part of a situation where you're gutting a team, you're sending him to there, they're not competitive? LeBron James in this last year or two, I say this retire stuff or whatever, but LeBron could still play another 2, 3 years. Like, let's be completely honest. At 41, the man still can do what some 30-year-olds are doing. So, LeBron, I see vetoing any trade situation that's going on, and rides it out to free agency and ends up on the New York Knicks, goes and gives them a championship and retires in that season. In other news for the NBA, the All-Star voting came out. Luka, Giannis are the top vote getters in their conferences. The West top 15, you have Luka, Joker, Curry, Shea, Wemby, Ant-Man, Denny Avia, KD, LeBron, who for the first time is not the top vote getter and not even in the top three. That's crazy to sound. I mean, it's the first round of votes, but I don't see him jumping that much higher. Reeves and Şengün, Harden, Davis, Murray, Booker round out the top 15 in the West. Top 15 in the East, like I said, Giannis is a top vote getter, followed by Maxey, Brunson, Cade, Donovan, JB, Towns, Jalen Johnson, Siakam, Porter Jr., LaMelo Ball, Ingram, OG, Giddy, and Bridges. Crazy part is I did not see any white. Y'all keep disrespecting my Celtics if y'all want to. And the way this whole all-star voting stuff works this year, like most years, fans account for 50% of the votes, the media is 25%, and the players is another 25% of the vote. This year, the all-stars being picked regardless of position. The teams will be split into three. Two teams of U.S. players and one team of international players will compete in a 12-minute round robin match. We'll see how it goes. I like the whole U.S. versus international players thing. It adds a little juice to the All Star weekend. Um, but this 12-minute round robin stuff, I don't know. The NBA is trying to find ways to get creative on making the players play, but I think Frank Isola and Barry Scalabrine has the best plan possible. Go out there and ask the players, hey, LeBron, how many minutes do you really want to play? 7 minutes? Cool. Hey, how many minutes do you want to play? And then you get those young guys, you let them duke it out because they're gonna play. They're gonna play hard. You let the fans get what they want. They get to see LeBron. They get to see Curry. They get to see KD. They see the LaMelo balls. Whatever. You play them there 5, 7 minutes that they're saying they're gonna play, and then you play the rest of the guys, and you have a competitive game for the rest of it. There's no gimmicks really needed. Like the younger guys are going to play a whole lot more. They're hungrier. You think Tyrese Maxey's not going to play a full 27 minutes nonstop for you? You think if you get a Derek White out there for the first time, a JB is going to play all out? Like, these guys are going to play all out. Certain guys are just not going to play all out. That's what it comes down to. You don't need to gimmick it. Um, let's do a quick scores rundown from the Christmas Day games. Um, the Christmas Day games didn't disappoint this year. There's only one game that I could have went without. It would have what I would have loved to have seen in that 3-hole instead of the Warriors versus the Mavs. I get it, you want to have Cooper Flag on national game, but I would have had the Celtics 76ers. I think that would have been a better matchup in that whole based off of everything that you had going on. And you only had one Eastern Conference game. You only had the Knicks and the Cavs. All the other games were Western Conference teams. So it would have been better to see, instead of the Warriors and the Mavs, you put the Celtics and 76ers in there. But regardless of the fact, y'all don't respect the Celtics this year because Jason Tatum's not playing, but they're just going on a tear in the Eastern Conference. They're still the third team and could easily bounce their way right up to the number one, especially when Jason comes back. So you better, like I said, Knicks, you better have a 10-15 game lead on us before Jason Tatum comes back. So speaking of the Knicks, they came back from 17 down behind Brunson and Tyler Kolek to win against the Cavs on 126-124. The Spurs beat the Thunder again. The Thunder had 5 losses on the season, and all 5 of their losses, out of their 5 losses, 3 of them come from the Spurs. And they're not like buzzer beater wins. Like, they're just winning. They're beating them. This last time, 117-102. The Warriors do hold off Cooper Flag and Dallas Mavericks. Cooper Flag had 27 points, 6 rebounds, and the Mavs lose 126-116 to the Warriors. KD leads the Rockets with 25-8 to beat down on the Lakers 119-96. And then the last game of the Christmas Day games, behind the Joker's massive triple-double game of 55, 16, and 15. Yes, 55, 16, and 15 the Joker scored to beat the Wolves 142-138, even with a strong effort behind Ant-Man's 44-6 game. I'll run through the conferences real quick with you guys also, because I know you guys, the basketball people, they think I only talk football, but it's just this time of the year, it does belong to football. The basketball, we're going to be together till June. I told y'all, there's not going to be no football after February, the first week of February, and we're good. We all basketball at that point, all right? So, with that being said, here's what the East looks like. The Bucks are still on the outside looking in at the 11th spot at 15-20. Giannis was injured for a little bit. I don't know if he's still out right now, but that could change easily. I don't see the Bucks being on the outside looking in. I don't even see them staying in as a play-in team. They should be able to move in to the top 6, but we'll see what happens. Atlanta is in at 10 with a 17-19 record. Chicago's in at 9 with a 17-17 record. Magic in at 8 with a 19-16 record. The Cavs in at 7 with a 20-16 record. The Heat is in at 6 at a 19-15 record. 76ers are at 5 with 18-14 record. Raptors in at 4 with a 20-15 record. The Celtics in at 3 at a 21-12 record. So stop disrespecting this team. We're still hanging out at 3. And Jalen Brown is showing you what we all up here knew. Well, maybe not all of us in Boston knew this. I've always been a Jalen Brown fan. If you make me gun ahead pick one, I'm gonna always go with Jason Tatum. But you can't. I'd be fighting tooth and nail for Jalen Brown and number 3 Derek White. I think as long as we have those 3 guys together, we have a championship window as long as those 3 are still together. Jalen Brown has proven that he can be the 1A guy on a championship caliber team. The numbers have said it, even though you want to keep disrespecting him and not giving him his credit where credit is due. Jalen Brown is a number 1 option. Jalen Brown defers his game to Jason Tatum, which makes him and Jason Tatum better. Jalen Brown gets to do what he needs to do, and Jason Tatum gets to do what he needs to do, and Derek White just orchestrates this like a maestro. And y'all keep disrespecting these Celtics. Y'all left us for dead, and we're still number 3 in the Eastern Conference. And like I said, when Jason Tatum comes back, you Knicks, you Pistons, and the rest of the East, y'all better have such a fucking big game leap between us and y'all. That's the only way you're keeping on to your spot. Because I could easily see Jason Tatum returning and we being the number one team in the Eastern Conference yet again. Stop playing with us. JB, keep holding us down. Derek White, keep holding us down. The rest of y'all and Crazy Joe is Crazy Joe for a reason. All right? Moving on. Knicks are locked in at number 2, 23-11. Like I said, the New York Knicks is the best team in the East until Jason Tatum returns. New York Knicks has the opportunity to somewhat pull away because we're sitting in January. I don't see Jason coming back till well after All-Star break. So we're talking about March, April, May, June. Gives him about a month and a half of games under his belt as you ramp him up to go into this playoff push, especially knowing that we don't have to rush Jason Tatum back. We all see the videos. Jason Tatum could come back and play right now, but we don't have to rush him back. JB and D White is doing what needs to be done. We stay in the top 3, top 5 situation, and then you add a Jason Tatum caliber type player for a playoff run. Stop playing with me. Even with me liking the Knicks a whole lot more, I like their bench better than our bench. I think we're a little depleted this year. This is me taking my Celtics hat off. I like what they could do in rotation a little bit more. And the scariest part for me is Mitchell Robinson and Cat Williams. If they Cat, as much as I don't like him, he could stretch you out and drive in if need be. And Mitchell Robinson giving them second chance rebounds is always going to be a problem for any team that they're facing. And so yeah, Pistons in our number 1 right now at 25-9. Great coaching, good young players. I want to see how long they can hold on to this number 1 for. But 25-9 ain't nothing to sneeze at. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing out there. In the Western Conference, the Clippers, Jazz, and Mavs, they're starting to get some momentum, but they're still on the outside looking in with a long way to go before you see them cracking into that top 10. The Trailblazers are in at 10 at 15 and 20. The Grizzlies are in at 9 at 15 and 18. The Warriors in at 8 at 18 and 16. Suns in at 7 at 20 and 14. The Wolves in at 6 at 21 and 13. The Lakers are in at 5 right now with a record of 20 and 11. But that injury to Austin Reeves can dictate a lot that could happen. I know you have Luka, I know you have LeBron, but Austin Reeves is the equivalent to our Derek White. He orchestrates what's going on. And we all know a Luka-led team, yes, he's going to score a lot on you, but the other team could score just as much as well. LeBron isn't the same LeBron in his past, even though he just now went from superstar greatness to just greatness. So you're still getting a great caliber player. So maybe it won't affect him as much, but I do know that Austin Reeves can derail the Lakers for a little bit to potentially sliding out of this top 6. And if you're the Lakers, you don't want to be in that bottom, but it's still a long way to go. They're only 31 games in of an 82 game season. So the Nuggets are currently at 4 at 23 and 11. But like I told you earlier, Joker literally makes that team go. Without the Joker, and then you add the injury to Valanciunas, that's a lot for them to overcome. I don't think Murray is enough to hold it down by himself. You don't have a Michael Porter Jr. anymore. I'm going to be intrigued to see how the Nuggets do without Joker for 4 weeks. That's a long time, a lot of games without the Joker. And in the West, you could go easily from 4 to 10 quickly without the Joker there. The Rockets are in at 3 at 21 and 10. The Spurs are in at 2 at 25 and 9. And the Thunder in at 1 at 29 and 5. It's hard to believe that they're gonna take that Warriors record of 73 and 9 at this point with a 29 and 5 record. I think the Spurs kind of like put a kibosh to that run of theirs with the 3 losses that they gave them. Anybody else, the Thunder's just rolling through them, but for some reason the Spurs are looking right at them like, and excuse me, they're chomping at the bit to literally take over that number 1 spot. But I don't see who's really beating the Thunder. Nobody's built like the Spurs do. I think the Spurs are built perfectly to beat the Thunder. The next team I would say just lost their ace in the hole with the Joker. And for me, another team that's built properly to potentially beat the Thunder would be the Knicks because of Mitchell Robinson. Um, Mitchell Robinson, Cat Williams, and all those. So we'll see how it all plays out. It's still early in the season. That's why I'm telling you guys I don't focus as much on the NBA side. We have a long season ahead of us. Let's just wrap up the college football playoffs. Let's wrap up the NFL, and then come February, we all NBA at that point. All right, let's go. So let's go to a couple predictions. You guys, if you've been with me, I still haven't started doing it yet, but I'll start doing my IG pick. I'll start doing my daily picks for the NBA matchups because it's just too much matchups. It's not like the NFL where it's just like 10 games going on. You have about like 20 games any given day, and they play almost every day of the week as well. So I will start at some point doing my picks on IG. And I'll probably throw some shorts on the YouTube also with my picks. But I will say one of the games, 76ers versus the Knicks tomorrow night. The only reason why I'm saying that is because, like I said, I feel as though the Knicks is the best team in the East until Jason Tatum comes back. The 76ers, I love their backcourt, and I'll be at that game. My first Garden experience, guys. I will go to that and see what the whole hoopla is all about, right? Let's go to the NCAA college football. I went 3-1 the first week of the college picks and went 1-3 this last week. So overall, I'm 4-4 with my picks in the college football playoffs. I have number 10 Miami ending the number 6 Ole Miss run. I just think that there's too much happening with Ole Miss with the coaching situation. I feel as though that those coaches don't return. And I saw what the Miami front seven can do. I don't think Trinidad can be running around like back there and beat Miami in the fashion that they did against Georgia. I like Carson Beck. He's been on this stage multiple times before playing for Georgia. I ruled out Miami early on, but watching what they did in this last game and seeing what's going on in Ole Miss, do I see Ole Miss probably winning this? They can win this, but that front seven of Miami is not going to allow him to do what he did in the last game against Georgia. So I have Miami ending the run for Ole Miss and putting this whole craziness to bed. I have number 1 Indiana beating number 5 Oregon. There's no real thought behind that. Indiana just looks like world beaters right now. It is what it is. So I have in the national championship game, Miami versus Indiana. Tune in next week. I'll give my picks for that game if it is end up being that game. To the NFL, the previous week I went 10-6 overall since week 10. I am 88-33, not bad at picks. I'm pretty good with the NFL stuff. So let's start off with the Saturday games. Give me the Bucks over the Panthers to win the division and get into the playoffs. But, and y'all see later, I have the Falcons winning against the Saints to play spoiler, and the Panthers actually end up in the playoffs and not the Bucks, even though the Bucks technically win the division, but then will lose the division the following day when the Falcons win. Give me the 49ers over the Seahawks. I have the 49ers taking the division and taking the number 1 seed. Not saying that the Seahawks can't. I just think this storyline and the way the 49ers have been playing, I like the Seahawks defense, but Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey is going to do some heroicness that's going to give them the number 1 seed and the division on Saturday. Sunday games, I have the Falcons over the Saints, annoying the Bucks and kicking them out of the playoffs and putting the Panthers in the playoffs. I have the Bengals over the Browns, but Myles Garrett will not only get the record, he will extend the record and get 2 sacks in that game and end the season with 24 sacks. The Packers will rest players since they have nothing to really play for. They got a couple players that are banged up, and I think they lose to the Vikings in that game. The Cowboys will beat the Giants, but who knows? The Giants could turn around and beat the Cowboys. Who cares? The Jags will rest players. I have it originally that the Jags are going to rest players, but I don't think they're going to rest players. I think with a chance at winning the division and potentially if the two teams ahead of them lose, they have the number one seed. And knowing that coach out there, I think he's going to play the players. I think they're going to play to try to take that number one seed. I think they're going to try to take that division as well. So scratch what I said there. I have the Jags not resting players, but still winning against the Titans this way. It doesn't matter. To be honest, they can rest players and still win against the Titans. That's the only reason why I said they're going to rest players. But I think they start their starters, get a little comfortable lead, and then they'll start pull out their starters and then still win, take the win against the Titans. The Texans will win over the Colts. The Bills keep Josh's record. They already told us that he's going to start. I think he only plays like a series or two, and then they pull him, and they'll still win the game. They're going against the Jets. Let's be completely honest here. The Lions will play spoiler at the end of the season and win the game against the Bears, who will still remain as the number 2 seed, even in the loss. The Chargers, I want to upset the Broncos, giving the Patriots the number 1 seed. Do I really believe the Chargers are going into Mile High and beating the Broncos? I think the Broncos understand what's at line, what's on the line, and they play to win for the number 1 seed. They're not even going to allow somebody else to dictate where they land. I think Sean Payton, Bo Nix, and that defense is going to take care of business, to be completely honest, and win. But I have it right here. The Chargers are going to upset the Broncos to give the Patriots number 1 seed. So that's my take. The Chiefs will win against the Raiders. We see what the Raiders are doing. The Raiders are trying to get the number 1 pick. The Chiefs will be able to rally and get a win there. The Rams rest and still win over the Cardinals. The Patriots take care of business and should take the number 1 seed with the Broncos loss to the Chargers. The Eagles rest and lose to the Commanders. The Ravens win and take the division for the Steelers. The loss of DK Metcalf haunts them, and Tomlin and the Steelers part ways mutually, and he becomes the next coach of the Tennessee Titans. That's my picks for the week. So let's go into the legacy moment, final word. All right, I've been at this for a minute, so I'll try to keep it to a brief rant, right? So here's my rant. NIL made sports competitive. NIL has made college football more exciting, more even across the board. We all know how I feel about the NIL situation. It's about time. I love it. And you see the repercussions of having the NIL. You also see the repercussions of having the transfer portal, which is also another thing that I love. I think coaches get to decide when they leave, when they stay, when they go, and these players are committing to coaches. They're not committing to these schools. They're committing to the coach, right? So they should have the right to leave if they so choose. The problem I'm having right now with the NCAA is your calendar. We're in the middle of the college football playoff push. We have a coach that left one team that's in the middle of the playoff push, who has a staff that is leaving with him. They're coaching the last team in the playoffs. But then your transfer portal opens right in the middle of this freaking playoffs. So now the reason why Lane Kiffin leaves Ole Miss early to go to LSU is because he wants to make sure that he's in place for the transfer portal. Because that's where you're building your teams. It's not just recruiting anymore. You got to go inside this transfer portal. And from by all accounts of what they reported, it's a deep transfer portal when it comes to the quarterback position, when it comes to the wide receiver position. There's some players on the defensive side that could change a program. But you're doing it while you're in the middle of a college football playoff push. So these last 4 teams that are playing, their coaches got to focus and get their team prepared for the next round while still sitting inside the transfer portal to recruit, because they want to make sure that they're back in the college football playoffs. Lane Kiffin has to tell his staff, hey, I understand you just won a round, but I need you to beeline, leave your team that you just won a game with and go, no time for celebrate. I need you back here in Louisiana so we can go into the transfer portal so we can start building this team. Oh, by the way, there's players that I know they committed to me. They didn't commit to Ole Miss. I know they want to come here. Now, what are those players able to do? They got to focus on preparing themselves to get to a game for next week to play for a national championship. But at the same time, they got to make a decision to enter the transfer portal. Then what do the schools do? Are you going to play those players? Are you going to allow those coaches to come back and play? What about Miami, who also wants to keep staying in the powerhouse playing? What about Indiana? Indiana is a success because of the transfer portal. They got their Mendoza in a transfer portal. They got their top linebacker in a transfer portal. But now that coach has to split his time between getting his team ready to go play for a national championship and be recruited in a transfer portal, because you can't let the transfer portal open and you not be active in there. You not active in the transfer portal just gave the leg up to somebody else. College football. I know you don't like changing a lot of things. A lot of y'all are scared to make any type of moves because of people being lawsuit here, lawsuit there. I heard somebody said they need an antitrust law to come from Congress so that they could better regulate this because the NCAA ain't trying to regulate anything. Whatever. But what you can dictate is your calendar. Move the transfer portal open to the end of the college football season. It does nothing to you by pushing the date by 2 weeks. Now you don't run into the situation where a coach is taking another job and can't coach his team anymore, that he's built, that he has developed and got to the number 6 seed and playing for a college football playoff game. He could still coach that and not have to worry about the transfer being in place for the transfer portal to go do recruit. You don't have to worry about the coaching staff changes. You don't have to worry about the players that are sitting as a backup but want to move on, or even not a backup, probably be a starter, but their coach that they committed to is leaving to another program, and they're looking at that program and it's like, hey, I could still have a chance over here also, because these kids want to win just the same way. These kids want to get paid all the same way also. Because when you enter that transfer portal, and when you're that guy, the money gets a little bit better. Because now you have teams vying for you. These teams are going to pay top dollar to get that quarterback. Oh, Colorado looking at you, Oregon looking at you, this Texas Tech is looking at you. Oh, no, I'll pay you the $2.5 million. I'll pay you $3 million. Come to my organization. That's what the NIL did. It changed the game. You guys need to change the calendar of this transfer portal. Make it fair across the board. I'm going to leave it at that. My next and last rant is to the media pundits and the voters that are out there. Leave your biases against Boston and New England teams at the door. Look at the stats, look at the numbers, and look at the teams. Don't punish Drake May and Mike Vrabel for the past. It's no longer Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. This is a new regime. This is damn near a new organization. Same ownership, but it's ran a different way. Don't punish Drake May and move the goalpost by saying, oh, it's the schedule. Is he not putting up the numbers? Because Jalen Hurts, a defending champion, can't throw for more than 15 yards and a half in multiple games, even against bad teams. And I can say that for other quarterbacks, but that's the one that comes front and center to mind. And he has all types of weapons. You have Devontae Smith. You have A.J. Brown. You have Saquon Barkley. And you still can't run your offense. Drake May running his offense, and he don't care who's lined up in front of him. Whether they're a playoff team or whether they're a shithole team. That ain't his problem that they're a shithole team. That's their organization's problem. Mike Vrabel came into this situation, a team that went 4-12, has not won the division in 5 years, and is pretty much coming into the shadow of one of the greatest coaches of all time. Drake May is playing behind one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time in a region where all we care about is championships. And when you don't win championships, the whole year was a bust. Don't change the rules. Don't change the goalposts. All season has been Drake May and Matthew Stafford. And I can see why you put Matthew Stafford over Drake May. But that last performance last week, as much as I'm a Matthew Stafford fan, as much as I believe that the Rams are a shoo-in to go into the NFC Championship game and be the representatives in the Super Bowl for the NFC, Matthew Stafford lost the MVP race in that last game. He lost that game. He lost the race when he lost to the Falcons. Drake May did what he was supposed to do against the Jets. The odds maker has told you. They've showed you that Drake May is the clear-cut favorite to win the MVP. And what are you guys now telling me? Well, what about Christian McCaffrey? What about him? I get what they're doing in the 49ers, but give that coach of the year. If you want to rob somebody, rob Vrabel. Yeah, he changed the culture around. I think he still be in the running for coach of the year. But what Kyle Shanahan has done with this team to end up with the potential number one seed, that is coaching that got that there. Christian McCaffrey played a great part. Yes, I think he's in the running for a 2,000 yard from scrimmage year yet again, right? But don't bring somebody in the last minute because you don't want to give it to Drake May because he plays up here in New England. And the same thing goes to what you guys are doing to Jalen Brown with the Boston Celtics. You guys said and left us for dead because Jason Tatum was out. We see it. The schedule told us we didn't play on Christmas Day. We don't have marquee matchups. We're not playing in those big games. But all the Celtics did behind Jalen Brown and Derek White, with Jalen Brown leading the way, averaging 30-plus points a game, had 9 out of 10 games where he scored more than 30 points. He's rebounding. He's assisting. He's shooting for better than 50% from the field and over 40% from three-point. But yet you're telling me he's not the Eastern Conference player of the game? I watch you disrespect this man time and time again. And you try to say it's because he has Jason Tatum playing beside him. But now Jason Tatum's hurt and he has to step up. And he stepped up big. Have the Celtics in the number 3 slot. All you keep doing is telling this man he's not ready for the Olympics. He's not all defense. He's not all NBA. He's not player of the month. Why? Because you don't like him? You don't like the way he does things? You're not in the business of liking people. You're in the business of calling the facts what the facts are. If Jalen Brown's numbers did not say that he was better, then fine. He's not better. Then I could just be a fan and just be Delulu and be like, why are they picking on Jalen Brown, blah, blah, blah. But I have the numbers to back up my facts right now. Jalen Brown is playing out of his mind right now. He has a Celtics that you all said would not even be in playoff contention because of Jason Tatum's injury. And not to mention, you said you tried to tell us Jason Tatum was going to be out for a whole year, so the Celtics definitely have no shot. So not only did JB rise to the occasion and keep the Celtics in contention, number 3 in the East, by the way, and could easily be number 1 in the East. And by the way, he's playing with Derek White and crew, and Joe Mazzulla coaching the hell out of that team after losing Kristaps Porzingis, Drew Holiday, Al Horford. 3 of our big 6 are gone, and then 4 of our big 6 is gone because of injury. And one of the ones that are gone is by far average, 8 rebounds a game, 27 points a game, 8 rebounds a game, 6 assists a game. Like, that's what's sitting on the bench ready to come back to add to the prowess of JB. Will the game change a little bit for JB? Absolutely. We all know how it works. Or maybe the game doesn't change that much for JB. We still keep him as the number 1 option as we ramp up Jason Tatum, because those two are yin and yang. They know how to work off of each other. There's no egos with those two. And that's why y'all keep trying to put this wedge in between them. You're trying to make them have an ego against each other. And, oh, my God. 1 second is, oh, my God, JB is the answer. Stop. Stay on that side of the fence. Watch us rack up these championships and hate us along the way. I see what y'all doing out there when it comes to New England teams, when it comes to Boston teams. You're never going to give them the credit that credit's due. And when it's time to give them the credit, you're just going to keep moving the goalposts. You did it to Jason Tatum when it was for the MVP race. Every time he's in an MVP race, y'all changed the criteria to give it to your favorite player, like a Shea. It is what it is. We'll just keep winning the championships out here in New England and Boston. So till then, Go ahead and subscribe to Please Excuse My Balls. Like the episode, follow us on social media, and tell me where I went wrong. Till then, go debate yourself. I said what I said, and I meant it. Peace.